Our show this year is called The Cutouts, and it's about the later works of Henri Matisse.
Matisse was a very famous and groundbreaking visual artist. Later in his life, Matisse became ill with abdominal cancer and was bedridden and had to find a new way to explore his own creativity, and thus decided to work with scissors and colored paper. It's impossible to tell an entire story in its totality and with every detail. You know, this was an extraordinary human being, an extraordinary visual artist, and the challenge was to figure out which parts of the story could be translated into our visual art of music and motion. We use a proverb in the show, how small a thought it takes to fill a whole life. And even though Matisse had had a full life, here once again, he had a small thought that certainly revolutionized what we think of as modern art.
So at the very beginning of the show, I start out with a saber phrase leading into a saber toss. So to start, I feel more like powerful, but in a way that you don't want it to be seen. Straight out the bat, we're tossing sixes with nothing prior to tossing a six, and then everyone tosses another six and does a turn with a lean over. So those are obviously high vocabulary, and the fact that we're doing it straight out the gate says a lot. You know, Matisse, he was on bed rest and couldn't do much, but just started cutting out shapes. As he realized and gained confidence from that, things started adding in, which I think is a full representation of what the show does. You know, it starts with one person, then sabers start adding in here and there, then there's a full 24 saber line, flags, you know, the chorus starts going.
Feature is mainly in triplets. It plays around with a lot of off-the-beat kind of syncopations. I think it's really musically interesting because it presents a challenge of finding downbeats where there aren't really any. It's the hardest listening environment in the show. We're at 4 intervals, so it's very wide. It's the widest that we'll have. It can be really challenging to nail that attack and get a really good start to the show. Most of the opener is at 146, but we can modulate to the quarter note triplet, which brings us up to 219. And we're really flying around at the 219.
So in my head, I'm just thinking about just calming down my body as much as I can while running around the field. It's like the first 30 seconds, you're just gassed already, and like you haven't even played the first notes yet.
taking care of each other. Stay focused in. Still got a job to do, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Nice.
All right, stay in it.
Once we bring the show to life, Matisse rising up and creating again, then it's time to really explore what that was that he was doing. And it was cuts and shapes. So we explore cuts and shapes through form, through our bodies. The music becomes a real worker. There's a drive and an energy that expresses this new inspiration that Matisse had.
So our snare break, after like the big opening statement, right away is just like really hard meter changes. Like we have like a 16-note 5-lit to a 9-lit. Nothing's the same for like more than like a count or maybe 2 counts. The whole break is like super finicky. The snare break is like super exposed. It's just us and we're like very much like the center of attention.
Going into the JOJO'S chunk, you have to switch characters into something more playful and more light, like you're just bouncing around and having a good time. And we've been told to, you know, smile, laugh, and just have a good time.
We have tons of variety, tons of interesting color and timbre, and like some really cool things that feature our drum set player.
One of the more technically difficult parts of the show for me would be that little front ensemble feature coming out of the first JoJo hit. It's really right-hand intensive where I'm just like playing these like quick 60-note bursts with like opening close hi-hat and just trying to keep a steady groove and steady tempo through all that.
My favorite part is where there are like 48 people spinning rifle, which is insane. Having that many people on rifle says a lot. We're dancing with the rifle, and then, you know, some people throw a quad, another group throws a quad, and then, you know, we're crossing through horn line members and color guard members, and then the ensemble 5, that's really when we're like in your face about it.
My favorite part of the show for me has to be the big drum solo transition between JoJo and the brass feature. It's just really fun to just like go out and just jam out.
The triple tonguing feature towards the end of stage 1 where we're all moving and playing. It's such a difficult part of the show and there's so many intricacies and little things that are going on.
One of Matisse's most famous works is Icarus.
It represents the wartime phase of Matisse's life.
Icarus floating in the sky above what we think are stars. Many people thought the stars themselves referenced bombs going off during World War II. Matisse's wife and his daughter were part of the French resistance. So you'll hear Charles de Gaulle speaking a very famous speech to the French people.
We did some interesting glitchy tape edit effects and, kind of leaned into the manipulation of ideas in unconventional ways.
When I first got the music for this part, I wasn't sure what it was. I was like, man, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on here. It seems very scattershot kind of. And then Scott explained that this whole section is reminiscent of a war.
Knowing that it's supposed to sound like a war, knowing that it's supposed to sound like gunfire makes it really, really cool. It starts with a snare bass moment where the bass is just laying down cool 8th note triplet feel. And then the listening situations are super hard just because they're always changing.
A lot of the stuff we're playing is cold attack 5-lit rolls, cold attack triplet rolls, single shot rolls, a lot of stuff that I didn't think was able to be played by people. So to see it live and be part of it is really exciting.
I've never played anything like it. It's just, I don't know, it's so interesting.
I was talking about professionalism at the end of blog today. What you did tonight was absolutely that. From the warm-up, from the second we walked off the bus to right now, 100% professional. That amazing show we just had, that was because we had our mindset right. That's because we were acting like professionals. We were doing what we know we need to do. So we gotta bring that every day. And by the end of the season, we're gonna be undeniable.
Sometimes execution is the most exciting thing ever. Like just being on point, being together, executing, snapping the catch, playing the lick. Sometimes that's the most exciting effect there is in the show.
One of the greatest things Matisse has ever done, he took a chapel from the walls to the stained glass windows to the vestments that the clergy would wear. Every part of it was Matisse, and he's often called it his masterpiece.
The front ensemble starts off with an introduction segment for the ballad. We have to try as much as we can to draw the audience in a little bit more, make them lean a little bit forward in their seat to try to listen more intently, because we're not playing straight to them now, we're kind of bringing them in closer. It's a much more intimate moment. And the marimbas are playing these beautiful moving lines and octaves and different intervals and things like that. There are a lot of parts where we can't overplay in the ballad because there are so many other things going on, and especially with how it's written, everything is very intent.
So the ballad this year is Both Sides Now. We're using the JONI initial version, and it's essentially about looking back on one's life. I like to relate what I'm playing in the music to the stanzas of the actual source music. So for me, my first entrance is more about celebrating clouds and looking at them in more of an admiring way. This ballad is so much different from pretty much anything else that is asked of performers in this kind of setting.
It's a part of the show where we can relax a little bit more and kind of bask in just the orchestration of the section.
The way the duet starts is at first Alex plays and he has this nice melody, and then I take over, and then we finally come together in sort of this middle of the ballad, I would say. I would say it's kind of like, the feeling is reminiscent of better times, I think.
During our flag feature for our ballad hit, we start off with really interesting plane changes into a really luscious toss, extensions through our arms, reaching out to the audience, super lyrical. We're just feeling each other and the energy around us, and using all of our breath together just to feel our ending sequence right before we present right to the audience.
So I end on a high D, going between a high D and a high E flat on the trombone. Really tough register challenge. I just got to really be locked in on, okay, I'm going to play this with the best sound as possible and, you know, really make it ring.
more skill, Miss AL. And 1, and 2, and 1, and 2, and 3, and push with the hip, that hand, hit my left, hit my right, hit my, what'd you hear? Some splashes, let's do it once again. What is missing sometimes, relax for some of you, is the urge to be consistent. How many times, how many days, how many reps does it take to feel one action in one body part? Not as many as we're taking. You agree? Yes. Come on, pay attention to what it feels like, and then when it works, just do it again. You've got to pay attention though so it's repeatable. Here we go, ready? And
and 5 and 6 and 7 and push, pass, dive, 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 whip, 5, 6 and 7 and squeeze, hold and hold and hold and push, pass, dive, 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 whip it, 5, 6 and 7 and squeeze. I want to do it one more time so we can get a better stop. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 3 and lift, check, and 6 up, 7 and set, pull, turn, 1, 2, wait, tap. That's better, Megan. You got to keep staying in that spot. You've got a good one when it's good. All right, here we go. All the way through. We're going to go all the way through the dive. 9, 10, and 12, and 3, and 6, and a 5, and just, and a 5, and 6, and 7, and 8, and 9, and 10, and 12, 14, and 15, and 7,
Roll up and lift.
The last 2 minutes and 50 seconds of our show is a celebration of Matisse. It's a celebration of everything we've learned in the process of developing this project.
I'm a huge fan of Tesseracts of Energy, so I was extremely excited to find out it was the drum feature, obviously. So one of the challenges with this solo in particular is the amount of gear changes we have to do. So we'll have like a 9-lip triplet bass part directly into a 5-lip bass part, directly into a 9-lip bass split, directly into a 6-tuplet single split. And that means, you know, more energy in certain parts, less in other parts. And the key to the solo success is going to be getting those transitions for sure.
The moment the drums are out of the spotlight, the tubas just appear out of nowhere. And all of the focus is kind of on us as we wrap the form up into the center and give our version of Incident in Jazz. The feel is like we're at the back of the jazz club with our shades on, plucking the bass and like just setting the tone of like this cool night jazz club.
During the incident of jazz, heading into this, I definitely feel like, again, I have like, ooh, I know something you don't know. And then we pop right into this trios. We start off with a quad with our hands up so that our saber partners could have a little saber toss under us. Once we catch that, we hand that off to our dancers, which return that to us right before we toss a 6, lean back onto our dancers and sabers right before we crack that 6 coming back up. During that trio section, we're all a little bit tired, just knowing that you have that trust with your partners and that you all have each other's back. It just gives you a little bit more, just a little more zip.
Grand Canyon Fanfare opens up with this brass quartet. They're doing the main melody while we are running out and forming these circles, and then it crescendos, and we hit it, and we start running around in circles while blasting. Yeah, at the end of the show, just classic drum corps. We're blasting the face off of the audience. But it's an interesting finale to the production.
And it's a celebration of what we all can enjoy through color and music and movement and dance and shape, and how all those things can come together to give us a unified experience.
I was a super big band kid in middle school, but I didn't know all that much about drum corps. I just remember being invited into the horn circle. I knew then that I always wanted to be here.
Being a female in percussion, I know I want to do that, and I know I want to be like the people that I would watch.
I did percussion all the way throughout high school, and then we'd always looked up to the Blue Devils and aspired to be just like them.
I knew this was probably going to be the place where it was going to be my home. Whenever we take the field, we know that every other person, like, we have each other's backs. We have the electricity behind what we're doing, we have the excitement, we have the love for the show. I think it's really awesome whenever the people that you're surrounded by, that you're doing all this with, care for you as much as you care for them and as much as they care about the product and what we're doing. And it makes the harder days a lot easier, and it makes the easy days pretty fun.